Happy Wednesday to each of you. Happy Wednesday. Understand there was a technical glitch going on because in the countdown, you should have heard the music of the late great queen of rock and roll, Tina Turner. So no worries, we will get that fixed and I will post that by the end of the show. But definitely, we're dedicating this podcast tonight to her. Such a great legacy, and my guest and I will be talking about her before we end the show tonight. So, for everyone who's watching tonight, thank you for joining. And we know that normally we don't come on Wednesdays, but Terri, my guest tonight, she had mommy duties on last night. So we know how mommy duties are. And so we were glad that we were able to get her on tonight. So hello to everyone who's watching. And if you would, post your favorite Tina Turner song or songs in the comments. And when we talk about her in a few moments, we'll definitely talk about those selections. But I'm glad to have everyone joined in tonight. Hopefully, you've had a great day on today. And if you would go ahead and tag and share this podcast tonight, we're going to be talking about some great things. Before I continue, I want to thank everyone who tuned in on Monday with my guest, Miss Courtney LaShawn Howard. That was really a great show. And it dawned on me that we didn't put her website up. So we will definitely put the website up and her email address tonight. Courtney told you about the scalp product, but those are just one of the amazing products that she has. So again, we'll be putting that website up before the end of the show tonight. So without any further delay, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce my guest and bring her on so we can go ahead and get to our discussion for the evening. So Terri is one of those tangible people that I was able to have in my life, and how that connection came. She was already in my life unbeknownst to me years later, and years before, and we'll kind of talk about that in a few moments. But had the opportunity to go to summer camp at the YMCA Northeast campus, and I also had the opportunity to go to after school care. At that time, Terri was serving as the director, so had a chance to be one of the many students under her direction. And she's always just been cool. What you see is what you get, real. So without any further delay, I'm going to bring her on, Miss Terri Harvill, and she is the Chief Impact Social Director for the YMCA of Greater Birmingham. Hello, hello, hello. And Terri, you're muted if you're talking. I can't hear. Can you hear me, Terri? All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna take her backstage. Y'all know how this is. Like I said, when this is live, you can expect anything to come up. One can hear me okay. I guess you can. Nobody has said that you can't. All right, let's try this once again. Good evening, Terri. Can you hear me? Okay, give us 1 second. All right, Terri, can you hear me now? Okay, you're muted. Okay, yeah, you're still muted. Can see you moving your lips, but I don't hear any sound on this end. Still can't hear you. Okay. All right, let's try it now. I think we should be good. All right, can you hear me now? Check your mute button on your computer, your laptop or your computer, and on your headset. Still can't. Yeah, we're gonna get through this interview because we literally did another sound check like we did on last week, and everything was perfect. Okay. I'm gonna take you backstage and give me a thumbs up, and then we'll bring you back in. All right. So while she's doing that, I see Leandria has already posted her Tina Turner songs, and people are posting them. So we kind of talk about those until we're ready for Terri. All right, Leandria, you said Proud Mary and Rolling on the River. Yeah, those are my favorites as well. And thank you, Mom. A lot of people don't know Tina Turner actually recorded a version of Let's Stay Together, and it was a very great version. One of my favorite songs is Nutbush City Limits. And for those who don't know, Tina actually wrote that song as a tribute to her hometown. She's born in a little bitty town in Tennessee called Nutbush, Tennessee. All right, we're going to try to bring Terri in at this time. All right, let's see. Can you hear me now? Okay, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. All right, yeah, we're getting through this interview, and thank you all for your patience, because, like I said, these things happen, and these are things that are out of our control. So, Leandra, Private Dancer, that was another great song. Terry's gonna log off and come back in to see if that helps. One of the great things, if we think about it, Miss Tina Turner, she actually got to see all of her flowers while she was alive. We knew about the biopic that was made based off her book. She got a chance to see that, had a chance to be in the company of Angela Bassett several times. And then she also had a chance to witness the Broadway show, which came out in recent years. That was actually after she had had her stroke. She and Oprah and her husband, they had a chance to see the Broadway show. And Oprah has honored her several times. So, like I said, it was one of those things where I'm glad to see that it wasn't a thing where we had to wait until she passed away to honor her, but she actually got a chance to sings. So those are great things. Leon, you coming out with the hits. What's love got to do with it? Yeah, that's another good one. Shake a tail feather. There are just it's so many. All right, and again, thank you for your patience. Anybody looking forward to summer break? I think I have some teachers tuning on tonight. I know all of my teachers are probably ready for school to be out. And shout out to all of the graduates. I know that several have graduated on, some graduated on last week, several are graduating this week. Shout out to each and every one of you. And a special shout out to my graduating class. I forgot to recognize this on Monday, but on Monday, my graduating class, the 2003 class of Huffman High School, we celebrated our 20th anniversary on Monday, 20 years since we all walked across the stage. And shout out to all of you who may be celebrating your graduation, whether it be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Some of y'all are getting ready to celebrate 50 years. Those are honors as well. So shout out to everyone. And if your child or grandchild is graduating from high school or college, that's a big accomplishment. And please continue to encourage them and continue to motivate them. So while we're waiting on Terri, if you have anybody you want to shout out tonight who has graduated, post their name in the comments and we will get it up. And Terri should be joining us in just a few moments. Like I said, thank each and every one of you. Patience. This is something we don't have control over. And believe it or not, y'all, Tina actually said in the interview that she used to hate her legs. It wasn't that she began to embrace those legs into her older years. All right, I think we got Terry rolling, so let's try this now. All right, I can hear you, so I don't have to ask. Can you hear me okay, Terry?
I can, and we're gonna try any means necessary. I tried two computers, and now we're on the cell phone, so I'm just gonna apologize. But I told you, Paul, I know the devil just don't like me, and he works through the airways. I told you before we got started, I would not be surprised.
Right,
I told you that.
right,
So,
right.
but we're gonna make this happen.
Absolutely.
So, good evening, everybody.
All right, because a lot of the things we were talking about that we were going to share tonight, they're going to bless someone. So we're going to go ahead and trample through. So hopefully you can hear me okay, and hopefully you don't freeze up on me. So as long as you can hear me, you're good. So let's go ahead and get started. In a few words, who is Terry Nevitt Harville?
Terry Nevitt Harvill uh, is a special identified daughter of the Lord Jesus Christ. Um, from an early age, I knew that I was called. I just happened to be the daughter, not just happened to be, intentionally. That's how I came here. I'm the daughter of a minister. I am the daughter of a mother who sang and was speaking all over the country. And so you just got to know that that all had purpose. And so I believe that at an early age, God began ministry for me because I can remember even, in Sunday school, I was always trying to take over. I was always trying to speak. But then again, it happened because they made me. And so I was always forced to be in front of people. I was forced to go places that other kids didn't have to go. And of course, at the age of 49, I can see that all of those things were necessary to shape and form me into who I am today. So I'm a good old fashioned church baby. I'm the daughter of a Baptist preacher. I went to Catholic school for 12 years of my life, kindergarten through the 12th grade. I'm a graduate of the original Holy Family High School, went to Holy Family Elementary School, graduate of Talladega College. And so I've always been around positive Black folk, everything. And so I was always in a nurturing environment that saw fit to make sure that I could do whatever I wanted to do. And if I couldn't, they made sure I at least tried it. So I've always been in an environment that said, you can do what you want to do. And here's the product of that. That's who I am.
Absolutely. And I talked a little bit about in your introduction your current role at the YMCA. So take us back to the very beginning, on how even you got connected with the YMCA to becoming site director. I know that you've served in other capacities. So just take us back from the very beginning up until now.
So the very beginning actually started when I was in high school. I was a part of a YMCA program called Youth in Government. But inside of the schools, a lot of folks remember it as Tri High Y. It was really big at West End High School, Woodland High School, and simply put, Tri High Y was a school club, and it's a government club. It teaches young people everyday hands-on judicial and legislative processes of government. So we would get a chance to write bills, go down to Montgomery. We get a chance to be involved in court cases. And so, although I went to Holy Family, we were connected to the West End Club over there with Green, Mr. Green. And
Okay.
so, as a part of that program, we always met at the Fourth Avenue YMCA.
Okay.
Now, not the Fourth Avenue Y that's on Fourth Avenue and 21st Street. This is the Fourth Avenue Y that was built for Black folk,
Gotcha.
that is no longer in existence, where Dr. King would rally the marchers before they went down to Kelly Ingram. I got started there because I was getting ready to go to school, and I was talking outside of the executive director's office. I was not talking to the director, I was talking at the director. I was standing outside and I was having a conversation to let him know I needed money for college. And so he came outside and said, "Hey, be here tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock." I came back the next day. I thought he was going to give me money for school. He gave
Mhm.
me a job application. That was May of 1991. I was a summer day camp director. I started my whole YMCA career as a summer day camp director, 4th Avenue Y, around 1993. I went over to the Northeast YMCA, not because I knew anything about the east side of town, because I'm a west side baby. I really got to the east side of town as a result of one of those things of what the devil meant for evil, God meant for my good. What I know now is I was actually the target of sexual harassment. And
Wow.
so the program director at the time kind of threw this job opening at me, and he was like, "Hey, so if you think you're so big and bad, go over there and apply for this job." Well, the job was assistant day camp director, and at the time, minimum wage was $4.25. So I was getting paid $4.25 at the Fourth Avenue Y, but the Northeast was paying $5.25, and so for a whole $5.25, I went over there. At that time, the Northeast Y was probably 99% non-African American. This was during the time where Roebuck used to be trustful, before Trussell was trustful. And so when I got there, quite frankly, I really didn't fit in, and I was going to leave. And my mother told me, she said, "You will not leave. You will stay. You will serve people like you always have, and you will serve them well." And so, what I can tell you is, because I stayed in that particular role, making $5.25, I had an opportunity to be at that particular Y as a program director, as an executive director, and I was able to see, or I've been able to see, that community continue to change. And so, I kind of moved from there to a district executive director, to a vice president, and now the chief social impact officer. But I'll tell anybody, what I do today is the same thing I've done for the last 32 years, which is serve people. You know, I like to say, sometimes God just lifts the cover off of you. And so all of a sudden it's, "Oh, I didn't know you work at the Y. I've been hanging out at the Y for 32 years,
Wow.
serving people." And so now I just have a larger platform to do that, and to help drive our brand into areas that are unserved, to make sure that we're staying true to our mission, because our mission is to put Christian principles into practice through our programs that build healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. Key word is those last two words: for all. People say all the time, "I thought y'all were a Christian organization." We are absolutely founded on Christian principles, and that's the reason why I work there. But I tell anybody, it's just like church. Everybody at church ain't saved, and everybody saved ain't been delivered. So when you walk into a YMCA, you're experiencing people. And so the best thing that we can do is make sure that we're continuing to develop people, so that the outcome and the impact looks like what our mission is supposed to portray. So that's my YMCA story.
And I'm so thankful that Mama Nevitt encouraged you not to leave the Northeast YMCA, because had you left, I would not have been able to experience you. Quick story, and you all have heard me share this story before. We're part of it. So I'm a West Side baby too. Me and my sisters, my entire family, we lived in Bellevue Heights, which is Ansley, for years. And so, wanting my parents wanting me to be in a better school system, better side of town altogether. I had gone through after school care and summer camp through elementary school, went through after school care at Charles A. Brown Elementary School, and had gone through summer camp at um, what's the name of the camp that Birmingham City School, Camp Birmingham, for
Mhm.
many years. And so I was already familiar with that. And I know that there are a lot of children now, they don't want to do after school care. They don't want to do summer camp. But I wasn't one of those kids. And so I have to be honest, going to the Y, seeing a director that looked like me, because that wasn't something that I had at Brown. I have to be honest, and the environment, it was just different. So we're going to talk about some of those programs and what sets the Y Summer Camp apart. So let's get into our dialogue for the evening. I just talked about it briefly. Summer camps. Like I said, summer camps, that was a strong part of my life. After going to summer camp at Camp Birmingham and the Y, I was afforded the opportunity to work at my church along with a lot of other young people through our work camp, which is still going on today, Camp Hope. Started out as a junior counselor and then went on to serve as a counselor for many years. And you really don't know the rewarding experience that you get being able to touch a child's life. You really don't, because there are a lot of children at my church now that went to Camp Hope that I taught them, and they were like, "Mr. JP, the stuff that you told me, we used to get mad, but it's like now we get it. And when you hear that, those things are rewarding.
Yep.
So let's talk about like the benefits of summer camp.
So number one,
However
the
you want to
benefit of
break it.
summer camp should be that a child is afforded the opportunity to be in a place that's number one, safe. It should be safe. A summer camp should be caring. It should be a place where a child has the opportunity to grow. Because you got to think about it. Summer camp is at least, or summertime is at least about 2 months. Now,
Mhm.
granted, some kids may only go to summer camp for 1 week because maybe they're here with grandmama and grandmama signs them up for camp. But this is what I know. Anytime a child goes to summer camp, they should leave that camp better than how they came in. And so they should be encouraged. They should be strengthened in their self-confidence. They should gain self-confidence. They should leave there with their character, their inner character built in some kind of way. They should be able to feel like this is my camp. And so at the Y, we talk about a place to belong, right? So we talk about a place where kids feel safe, they feel welcome, they feel free to express themselves. Everybody's not going to be the same. I have had children at the Y on any and every spectrum you can count on from every side of the track. And they're all appreciated and they're needed. They should have a sense of achievement. And so over the summer, so think about it. You know, you go back to school and teachers always say, well, what did you do this summer? What did you learn? Where did you go? And it can be something simple. For instance, if you're in kindergarten and you still don't know how to tie your shoe, but doggone it, over the summer, we are determined that by the time you go to school, you're going to know how to tie that shoe. That is an accomplishment. I actually have a family member who comes to my after school care program right now and started going to camp. He is so introverted, it is unbelievable. He is the opposite of his auntie. And so he had a conversation that only an 8-year-old can have with me. And he said, look, I need to have some friends, but I don't know how to make friends. And so we talked about how in order to have friends, you got to be a friend. So what you got to do is stop pushing people away. And so literally over the last 6 months, I've seen him learn how to be a friend. So in turn, he now has friends because he realized his birthday comes up in the summer. And he said, I want to have a party, but I have nobody to invite because I don't have any friends. And so, guess what? Now he has friends to invite because his socialization skills have increased, which in turn, guess what? His joy has increased. He used to always sit by himself, really somber. Now he's smiling. Those are the outcomes that summer day camp should produce. We have children that even come here from out of town, but they know that when they get to Birmingham, they're going to see some of those same friends they've been seeing for years. And at the end of the day, summer camp should give you an extended family. Summer camp should be that place where you can go and you find friends and caring adults that don't look like school. Because during the summertime, we have opportunities to do what I call disguised learning. Some of the things that we do at the Y that don't look like school, but they are an addition to school, is we allow ourselves to be a partner in education by doing disguised learning. So for instance, you might be just playing a game, but not realizing that the game requires you to do math. It requires my own daughter did not like science until she started going to YMCA summer camp and we started doing STEM activities. Now, all of a sudden, everything in my house for the last 2 years has been centered around STEM activities. Not because of what I did at home, just being honest, not because of what she got at school, but because at the Y, it could be fun. And so your summer camp experience should be an extension of home, should be an extension of school. And I'm there to say this to any parent. If you send your child to a summer day camp and you feel like you need to call your child every 5 minutes to make sure they're okay, they are not at the right summer camp, because that means you don't have confidence in where you've left them. You should be confident that when you drop your child off, the people who you are leaving your child in their care, you should have confidence that they're going to be an extension of you to care about your child as if you would. Now that's a whole nother show probably, because in order for you to do it, means that you've got to be confident that it takes a village to raise a child. And so all I can say is after 32 years, children don't look like they looked like 32 years ago, and parents don't either. But the ones that come in that have that village mentality, those are the ones that I know we're gonna have fun with. They understand that, guess what? Children are human, and so are camp counselors. Accidents might happen. Just because something happens somewhere, whether it's at school or at a camp, doesn't always mean somebody's bullying your child. Because in 2023, everybody takes everything to an extreme, right? If your child said, well, somebody said something to me, I didn't like it. All of a sudden, your child's being bullied. No, somebody just said something to your child that they didn't like. And we've got to allow children to go through those experiences to learn how to diffuse situations. If something gets escalated, it's okay for them to get in an argument as long as we help teach them how to go through that argument without somebody getting shot on the street the next day, because I believe all of that plays a part in how we experience children outside of school, outside of summer camp. We don't want them to go through anything that's bad. Well, at summer camp, sometimes bad things happen,
Right.
but our job is to make sure that we're navigating them the right way so that they learn how to properly go through conflict resolution. That it's okay to agree to disagree, and everybody doesn't have to agree with you. And you're not going to like everything that the counselor says, and you're not going to like everything that the counselor does. And parents may not even like all the rules we have, but all of those things play a part in keeping your child safe, in making sure that they have an environment that's conducive to camp. If you feel a need that your child has to bring a phone or an electronic device in order for them to be occupied, they're in the wrong summer day camp. Because summer day camp is that place where they should be able to learn how to just be a doggone kid again. It is amazing to me in 2023, when folks are signing up for camp, one of the number one things they want to know is, well, are they gonna play outside? Yeah, absolutely. At age 49, if I can go play outside, surely your 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11-year-old can play outside. They actually need to know what it feels like to sweat. It's okay. It's amazing to me.
Right.
We will literally have parents to come and say, hey, my child's coming to camp, but they can't go outside. And there's not a medical reason or any other reason. They just can't go outside. Well, socialization skills, teamwork building, all of that happens inside and outside. So a good camp should have a healthy mix. Now, no camp should leave your child outside all day. I remember in 1993, we didn't have things called ozone alerted
Right.
days. We didn't. Like, we just, because we were outside then, but it's a different kind of hot. So when we see that there's going to be a cold orange or a cold red, we've got sense enough as childcare providers, as childcare professionals, to know that there's a healthy mix where they can go outside for a little while and then they come back inside. And once they've rested, they've hydrated, they go back outside. Kids actually learn how to drink water at summer camp. They do. Most of them don't drink water all school year. They get to camp, they learn how to drink water because they're exuding energy. And then drinking water becomes cool because now everybody's got to do it during that water break. I encourage you, if you allow your child to go to a camp where they're swimming, particularly at a YMCA, I can't speak for nobody else, but at a YMCA camp, they are going to swim. Most of the children who are at the camps that I serve, which are either at the youth center or at Northeast, most of them don't swim. And we know that. And we're prepared for that. So at the YMCA, we actually have protocols to where every single week we give swim tests. Now, unless your child says they know how to swim, we're not expecting them to swim. But they're going to have a swim test if they say, I want to swim in the deep end, or I can swim. Because every child that gets into our water, if they cannot swim, they're going to have on a red armband, but they're going to also have on a life jacket,
Gotcha.
a life vest. So we're not going to let them go under. If they pass that swim test, then they have kind of, free range in the pool. They don't have to wear a life vest, but then they'll have on a green armband that signifies I'm a swimmer. Now, this is what my goal is. During the summer, see, sometimes children can't swim and they're absolutely terrified to get in the water. But if you expose them to the water, if you let them just dip their feet, because see, my mama wouldn't even let me dip my feet. She was so scared. If you just let them dip their feet, if you just let them put their body in, they may not be able to swim at the beginning of camp, but just being exposed, and our lifeguards working with them, our lifeguards taking them through safety around water. My own child was in the 10 feet one day. I was like, oh man, those lifeguards are doing such a good job. Look at those kids in 10 feet. And they were like, Miss Terry, that's your baby. And instantly fear came up. Because what did I say? That can't be my child. My child can't swim. Yet
Hmm.
with my own eyes, I was looking at her swim. And so I will say during summer, we've got to get past some of our own biases and fears so our children can learn skills that maybe even we don't know. I am the poster child for our Safety Around Water program. And I believe earnestly that every child needs to learn how to swim for all the right reasons. So at the YMCA, we're determined to make sure that that exposure takes place. With our middle school students, we infuse some of our youth leadership programs like Y Achievers and Youth in Government. In Y Achievers, we actually bring college and career exposure to children who've never had it before. There is nothing like taking children on a college campus who've never been before. They've heard about it, some of them, and some of them not. But to go on a college campus and just be in that space and have them hear from folks in different careers, doctors, lawyers, the whole nine, it gives them vision. It gives them something to say, oh man, I didn't know you could do that. To have an entertainment attorney join in from Hollywood on Zoom and tell them who they are, what they do. And then they're going to ask them always the number one question: how much money do you make? And
Wow.
when they tell them how much money they make, to have actors, we had Cassie Davis in our film camp to actually come on Zoom. She was on set of a Tyler Perry movie, and she stopped what she was doing on set, talked to those babies for about an hour. By the time that hour was over, we had young people laughing, we had them in tears, but we had them dreaming. And so at the end of the day, if your camp is not a camp where children have a sense of belonging, where they can gain a sense of achievement, where they're meeting friends, and as parents, I would encourage you. I've, I'm encouraging you to encourage them to want to participate. There's no need for you to spend money if you're going to come up the first day and say, hey, well, here's my child, such and such, but they're probably not going to play. Well, why did you bring them?
Right.
I need you to encourage them to want to meet new friends, to want to have a new experience, to want to have a good time. Because the truth of the matter is, some of them rebel because they're so used to not going anywhere. They're only used to being at home, and they're only used to being around the people that they're around all the time. But summer camp is an opportunity to have a whole nother, even if it's just for a week, even if it's just for a few weeks of the summer, but give them something other than their norm that they can be exposed to something different.
Absolutely. So I want to shift gears because I want to make sure we get all of this in. So not only is Terry a dedicated and faithful lawyer employee to the YMCA, she's also a wife and a mom. And so for those who follow Terry on social media, she had an amazing weekend. Terry's 50th birthday party, which I think we were talking about that before we came on, but I'm gonna get to the other thing and then we'll come back to the party. And then on Sunday, she and her dad had a chance to baptize her daughter and kind of talk about that. But I want you to go back to what you told me happened during the pandemic.
Oh, so during the pandemic, we got a dog. We got a little shih tzu. And so with all little dogs, I mean, they have to be taken care of and walked. And so during the pandemic, my daughter's name is Karen. And so at the time, Karen, because she's 10 years old now, Karen was 8 years old, and Karen was walking the dog. And we were in the backyard, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And she said, Mama, when the pandemic is over, I want to get saved. And
Wow.
I, Karen, because if you know me, we ain't got to wait till the pandemic is over. We ain't got to wait till Sunday. I
Mm,
said, what did you say? She said, well, when the pandemic is over, and the reference point is at that time, church was still online. So she was thinking, you had to do it in person. I said, well, if you want to be saved, Karen, you can be saved right now. And so we had a in-depth conversation outside, walking the dog. I'm gonna say the dog is saved because the dog was barking the whole time. So maybe the dog was the witness. But at that conversation of why she wanted to give her life to Christ and what that meant. And I knew that she understood it because honestly, Karen is kind of like me since about the age of 4, 5. she has always had a heart for God. And I've always called her a Jesus girl. She's actually a very present answer to a prayer. And so she has always just had that soft spot. She's a kid that reads the, like, she put a Bible app on her phone that breaks down scriptures for children every day. I didn't do that. She did. And so she got saved in the backyard about 2 years ago. Her older brother got baptized a few months ago.
Okay.
And she has been on her head to be baptized. Well, you know how it is. Sometimes, we try to make sure certain people are there. We want to make sure grandmama's there, granddaddy's there, godparents are there. And so this weekend, I knew that all these people, all the right people in her village would be in town. And so we were able to have her baptized, number one, at the church where I was licensed and ordained in ministry, under Waskey Moore over at Mount Zion on Greymont Avenue. But the special thing happened. And so my father, Reverend C. Howard Nevitt, he was in the water. I accompanied him inside of the water. And then outside of the water, Bishop Moore is not just a person that ordained me, but he's also my god brother. So I had my god brother outside the water. I actually had on Bishop Moore's robe. My
Wow.
father had a robe on that was 50 years old. And he told us before he got in the water, he said, look, he said, this robe right here, he said, this is not just any ordinary robe. This robe has meaning. He said, but after this one, it's going to be retired. Y'all can just take it to the dumpster and throw it away because I'll never wear it again. It's got holes everywhere. He said, but it's going in the water one last time, because that was the robe that he baptized me in, baptized my brother, all my cousins, hundreds of folks. If you got baptized at First Baptist Fairfield by him, he wore that robe. And so to have him in the water and to have my father and I to take my daughter under the water for baptism, it absolutely was an out of body experience. I can't explain it any better than that. I was there. I was in the moment. I was trying to hold back all the emotions, all the tears, because I wanted to be able to actually see what I was doing.
Absolutely.
But I was like, this is something that will only happen one time. And we did it right. And so I am so elated that it happened. Everybody who was supposed to be there was there, because that's the way God works. But in that moment, I realized the gravity of the transferring of anointing.
Oh,
I did, because once again, like, Karen came up and there was this, I can't explain it. I just know what it felt like. It was a whoo. And so I said, when we got out the water, I said, Karen, how do you feel? She said, I feel like I'm so much closer to the Holy Spirit now.
wow.
She said, I'm ready. Now, what she's ready for, I don't know, but I believe she knows.
Wow.
So in her mind, this confirmation is complete. I knew I was saved, but it's complete. And since Sunday to now, she's had 1,000 more questions on salvation. But I know that she's been chosen. I know that she's been called. I know she's going to do great things. And I know that she's a Jesus girl. I do.
Awesome.
So
And I want you in your own way, because I think a lot of times people don't understand, especially when we work in environments around children and seeing our own children develop a relationship with God and come into their own person. That's just like a double, triple blessing. Talk about that in your own way.
So, so I didn't have Karen until I was 39 years old. And I'll tell anybody, I was so busy raising other folks' children, I just didn't feel like I had time to raise my own, because I knew that whenever it happened, I wanted to be the one to pour into her. And so I was what they call the old mama. Even in the hospital, they were like, hey, you right there. But to be there in the midst. And so I have a really unique opportunity with Karen, because she does go to the YMCA for after school. She goes to the YMCA for summer camp. And so I have a unique experience to watch her interaction daily in settings that most people don't. But when you're able to actually see how they connect with other children, to see how when they could respond one way, you see them acting out and behaving in a manner that is pleasing not only to you but to God. And then to get in the car and have that child say, "Hey, mama, did I handle that the right way? Or this person really made me angry, and this is what I wanted to say, but I didn't because I think God would really be angry. How do you handle that the next time?" It's a hands-on opportunity. And so I do liken it. My father watched me grow in church. He watched me at home. At the age of 14, he gave me the opportunity to speak at a mic in front of thousands of people for the first time when I did my first youth day message at First Baptist Fairfield. And so I just kind of see how history repeats itself. And so he reminds me all the time, okay, now that same way that I would just give you a little nugget here, give you a nugget there, you need to be doing the same thing for her. And so from day one, when I say day one, I mean day one, like even when she was in the womb, there are some things that we were doing in the womb that we continue today. So praying at night is just natural because we pray all the time. And so now I catch her praying all the time throughout the day. When we go to school in the morning, she's the one that leads prayer, and then I kind of jump in. But it's a privilege and it's an honor that I don't take for granted. And all I can say is I've always wanted to be present. When I had a child, I didn't know what that was going to look like. But even if you don't have the opportunity like I do, every parent has an opportunity to be present, because I hadn't always gotten it right, because I'm a workaholic too. And even in the last 2 years, I've made it my business. If they have field trips, if I can go, I'll be there. But they know, like yesterday, they were presented before the Birmingham school board, and we didn't get the notice until late the night before. And I had something very, very important that was supposed to take place. But I'm learning that what you make priority really is that thing that is priority. And so, whether it's being a parent, being a wife, I'm challenged sometimes to make sure my actions match my intent, because my intent really is that my family is first. And so sometimes I have to catch myself. And so parents, we have to make sure that in parenting, if our children are to be first, we actually have to be present in there, because they're looking to see, if she knew I was at the school board meeting, I took her. Yet and still she's texting me, "Hey, where are you? I don't see you." And
Wow.
once she me in the crowd, I could see this comfort come over her, like, "Oh, okay. I just want to make sure you ain't slip through the door," because they want to be there. So I think that that's what God intended for a parent to do: be present.
So we have about 20 minutes left in this conversation, and there's no way that we could have this conversation about the YMCA without talking about the life of another young male whose life you impacted, Mr. Miles Jared Butler, and he passed away unexpectedly in 2021. So, briefly, in your own way, I want you to talk about, and this is personal for both of us because Miles was like I was a part of his village thanks to his mom, and that was like one of my little nephews. So, I want you to personally talk about the impact that you had on his life, but also the impact that he had on your life, which you were able to share at his homecoming and everything that you're doing with the YMCA to keep his legacy alive.
So let me that the impact that I had on Miles, I could not have had without the permission of his mother, because his mother always trusted us to pour into him, good or bad. I used to stay on Miles so much. And then I call his mama and say, "Look, this I got in his butt today, and let me tell you why." So if he come home and tell you, "Yep, I said it, I did it." But Miles was a special young man, just different, kind of one of those spirits like Karen, but always push the envelope. Always push the envelope. Miles was someone who other people were drawn to. He could make children who always went to the side. He could make those children come on around because he was compassionate. He was, as we talk about it now, Miles was living in his purpose. Before he transitioned, we had several conversations about, well, what are you going to do next? And sometimes we're guilty of doing that. We're talking about what we're doing next and skipping over what we're doing now. Well, Miles grew up at the Y. Miles had been in after school care, summer day camp. Miles was the poster YMCA kid, but he was the poster YMCA counselor. He was the one, if you were supposed to wear a costume, doggone it, Miles was going to have the wackiest, craziest costume. If you didn't be loud, he was going to be the loudest somebody in there. But he also was the one that set the atmosphere. And so in the morning, when you would come into the youth center, you would hear praise and worship music. And that was all Miles. Miles was the DJ. And Miles was like, we're going to get all these spirits right before the day starts. And then probably about 9 o'clock, you know, you might get you something else. But before then, it was going to always be Kirk Franklin, Mary, all of that. So now you got kids in the gym and they're praising and worship because once again, this is disguised learning. So some of them had no idea that Kirk Franklin was Jesus music, as they called it, because they know they were just having fun. They would do games to gospel music. But Miles was mild mannered. He didn't raise his voice much. When he was wrong, he would come and he would apologize. So I could appreciate the fact that his mother allowed me and some others to second mother him, and she was okay with it because it was a team effort. And so it was not uncommon to get a phone call to say, hey, I need you praying for my boy. This is what we got going on. It was not uncommon for Miles to say, look, this is what I want to do. As a matter of fact, before he transitioned, we had a young man who had been mentoring him and talking to him, and he was about to have this wonderful job opportunity, making more money than he'd ever made. He was excited. Everything was set to go. It had taken him a while to get to that point, though, because he was not listening, because he did not want to leave the Y. And I was like, Miles, you grown. You got to go make some real money because you also have a daughter now. But he loved what he did, and he loved the children that he worked with. He had such an impact that my own daughter, Karen was on his basketball team because he not only did after school care, summer day camp, he did youth sports. Karen was one of those children, particularly as a girl, playing basketball. She's like, I don't want to do that. That's for boys. Well, Miles would just slowly work with her and some of those other ones that needed that special attention every single day. And so now all of a sudden, Karen's confidence is coming up. Her self-esteem is rising. Why? Because Mr. Miles said, I can do it. And so when he passed away, I don't know, like it's still fresh, just to be like it's still there. But for about a year, we had to encourage each other every day. Some just to get out of bed, some just to come to work and stay at work, some just to hear his voice. And to be honest, we had some people who just quit the Y because they were like, I can't be in this space without him. We have children that have his name and his number on their shorts and on their shirts when they go and try out for basketball teams because they believe that's their angel. And so right now, even today at the YMCA Youth Center, if you come into the Y and you look down on the gym floor, you'll see a replication of Miles's his signature is on the floor. And we dedicated that gym floor as the Miles Jared Butler Memorial Court. And our instructors, along with our children, they kind of put together what used to be our trophy case. That's now our Miles case. And so you'll see pictures of Miles over there. You'll see some of his, so he had this basketball that he came in with every day, left out with. That basketball is there. And every now and then you'll see a child just go over and they're talking. Because we still holler at Miles every now and then. There's a flower that one of our parents gave us, and it blooms and it dies. It's a very special little flower. I don't know what it is, but when something good is happening, it blooms the most beautiful flowers. We're like, we see you, Miles. And so all I can say is that his impact is still there today because we didn't know it at the time. But what he did every single day, touching thousands of young people after school, summer day camp. We have children right now who are graduating from high school and they're dedicating their graduations to Mr. Miles. We have kids who just made the basketball team, and this year they're going to have wristbands for Mr. Miles. And so my hope is that every child that comes into a YMCA, it's a Mr. They either are Mr. Miles or they run into a Mr. Miles because it's transformational as a participant, but it's also transformational. So the more he worked with young people, the more I saw him grow. And the more I saw, not just one or two children, but I saw several children walking into their purpose because he would encourage them. And so it's powerful to see a little, I don't know, to see a 7-year-old boy just break down crying. Even today, you say, "What's wrong?" "I miss Mr. Miles because I need to go take my test, but Mr. Miles would always encourage me before I took a test." And so those are the little small testimonials that we still get even today. But I will say through his transitioning, there were a lot of children, there are a lot of grown folks who learned how to grieve, because that was the first of that sort of loss that a lot of those children had. And just to be honest, working at the Y, I've lost children who've been in the program before. I've lost people who've worked in the program, but never, ever in my career have I experienced a loss like that. Never, never. So his memory will not soon be forgotten. As a matter of fact, so his group of counselors and his friends that he helped to get saved, they used to always play in this basketball tournament against each other at the end of summer camp. So right now they're even planning a memorial basketball tournament because Miles's friends beat the brakes off our YMCA council last year, and so they're determined that in this year. And so uh, every single part of summer camp, I would say, has some remembrance of Miles and in some little way embedded into it.
Awesome. And thank you for all you're doing to help keep his legacy alive. All right. So we can't have this conversation without talking about mental health awareness. And I know that this is something that, you all offer programs at the Y doing after school care and summer camp. And we're seeing a risingly increasing number of children who are impacted by mental health awareness. What would you say to those parents that are watching how you should really, be watchful of your children when you notice things that something is off in your child?
So I'm going to say everybody needs somebody to talk to. And I don't know where this notion has come from that children don't have feelings, that children don't need to be heard, that children's emotions and feelings should be discredited. But a lot of times they are, and we do. And so for parents, I would say, your child more than anybody else. But I'll be honest, Paul, sometimes parents just be in straight denial. And that's the best way I can, y'all be in denial. We're in denial sometimes. And more often than not, and we just had this conversation as staff the other day. I said, do y'all know, I have this little, I'm gonna call it my little checklist. I've got this little checklist of children who along my career, I attempted to have conversations with parents. We attempted to say, hey, something's not right, something's going on. And the parents, more times than not, would say, nope, not my kid. Or I would say, hey, your child told us X, Y, and Z. You may want to take a look into it. And they go talk to the child. Because the child wasn't comfortable, they may have told them something else. And parents are quick to say, well, my child won't lie to me, so they're fine. If you think your child won't lie to you, that's because you lie to yourself. Because children are human. And sometimes children will not be open with parents because they have fear of what you're going to say. They may have fear of ridicule. They may even have fear of rejection. And so so for instance, when this whole thing happened with Miles, we had some of the most wonderful counselors to come from Impact Family Counseling. And it didn't look like them sitting on the couch. What it looked like was them just having conversation, playing a basketball game. It was allowing children to be honest and open about how they were feeling, what they were going through, the most ridiculous things that happened during that time. And I say it's ridiculous, but what I really know was happening, people didn't know how to deal with their own grief. But we had parents who were upset one day because Impact was there, and they were allowing children to just say how they felt. And they were allowing children to say, hey, what made Mr. Miles so great? And it was wonderful. But of course, sometimes it came with tears. And we had some parents who were downright upset because when the child may have seen mama, well, of course you see your mama. Now I want to cry some more because I may have been like, but when I see my mama, now I should be able to let it all out. Because now my safety net is here. And mama, this is how I'm feeling. And we had parents who were just downright nasty to kids, like, shut it up.
Wow.
What you crying for? Or they were upset with y'all making these kids cry. How about somebody who's been in their life for the last 6, 7 years? They've been watching the news for the last 3 days saying they got swept away in flood waters and they're gone, and they had to come into this YMCA knowing they'll never see this person again. It would have been irresponsible of us not to give these children an outlet to release themselves. But a lot of times parents don't know how to allow children to release themselves because we are afraid to release ourselves,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
especially church folk, because we know that Jesus paid it all. But it's okay to know that Jesus paid it all and he has given us resources and counseling as well.
Absolutely.
I'm a firm believer that t-shirt, you need Jesus and a therapist too.
Absolutely.
During the pandemic, children have been, or forget the pandemic, let's just say the pandemic didn't even exist.
Mm-hmm.
We don't realize how much children have on their hearts in 2023, because I don't care when you grew up. If it wasn't right now, we don't understand the pressures that they're different. And some of us just write it off. During the pandemic, however, I saw children being bullied. Y'all, they weren't even in school. And I saw children being bullied on the doggone virtual classroom. You ain't even in school. And other children were inboxing this one particular child, sending them the most hateful messages. And thank God, during that time, we had a program called School Support Academy. So we had children who were actually doing school work at the Y. And so I was able to call the principal and we were able to counteract what was happening. And lo and behold, a lot of these kids were at home by themselves. So here you are at home, really bullying other folks' children at your own house. So now you really got some courage because who's watching?
Mm-hmm.
And now you got kids who don't want to go to school. They don't want to participate. They're afraid. They're afraid to fail because society only shows on Facebook everybody's winning. Everybody ain't winning, and even if you winning, you ain't winning every day.
Absolutely.
And so it's important to help children understand that it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay not to share when you're not okay. Then they have to have a safe outlet. They have to have a safe support system. And sometimes parents, it ain't us.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's I'm not the best person all the time for my child to talk to. So you know what? I got some godparents. I got some YMCA counselors. I got some other parents that I know they trust and I trust
Mm-hmm.
to give them godly counsel or just to give them that listening ear. And as a responsible person, they'll come back to me and say, hey, you might want to look out for, or you might want to be aware of. But not to have that outlet, it's not good. It's not good. But as a parent, we've got to be okay to admit if something's wrong, or to even ask the question. Sometimes you don't know because you ain't having conversations.
Absolutely.
Just talk to them
Absolutely.
and toughen up your skin, because sometimes you may not be ready for what they're about to say. But just fake it sometimes. Just mm-hmm. And then you go in your bedroom and deal with it. But mm-hmm.
Yep.
Everything cannot have a response all the time. Sometimes it's all you can give them. Let me get back to you on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if they're used to you raising your voice or rejecting them all the time, or you always tell them to go to their rooms, you always tell them to shut up, be quiet, as if they don't have a voice, what you will do is strip their voice away. But it doesn't mean that what's on the inside goes away. It's
Yep.
still be there. And it's going to come out somewhere, somewhere, and in some way. Has to.
Absolutely. So one final question, and we're definitely gonna schedule you to have you back on right before school. I'm already envisioning something. So the final question, you're celebrating your 50th birthday in a few days, and you don't look like you're about to be 50 anything. So I want you to close us out for the evening. Talk about the passion and legacy of Terri and Nevitt Harville.
Mm. talk about my passion. My passion has always been and simply is people. In a household where help was normalized. It was normal in my house to pass by and bring those uh, kids, mothers. She would come by and get a meal. And so my legacy, number one, is kingdom driven. Anything that you see in me and through me, it ain't me. I really ain't this good, but God is. I serve a good one, and He has been good to me. And so I pray that my legacy of helping others continues through the people who I've helped. It does my heart nothing greater than to see a Japal on this live stream, bringing resources to the world and knowing, oh, that was one of my kids. My husband always says, we can't go nowhere without you seeing somebody saying, I raised them, or them saying, she raised me. I had an opportunity at my birthday party. Real life story. There's a guy, I won't even mention his name, but there was a guy who was there. And this person is a ex NFL player worth over $100 million. Yet it just hit him at my birthday party who I really was. I knew it hadn't hit him yet. But when he was 16 years old, I used to go and buy groceries for his family. I hired his brother and his sister so they could have a job. His mother fell gravely and deathly ill. But during that time, I knew that they were trying to push him to get a scholarship, to go to school. And I knew that for that family, he was the hope. And during that time, I had no other reason to help him other than I knew he needed help. And so when it hit him, he was like, oh my God. He said, I remember the day I was in your office and I was crying and you didn't ask me for nothing. And everything I asked you for, you gave me. And I never knew who you were or how to repay you. He was like, but you started talking. And I remember what you had on in that office. And I remembered I would walk miles to the Northeast YMCA and just run up and down that court. And when I got finished, sometimes you would buy me dinner because you knew I didn't have food to eat at home. Well, guess what? This dude has $100 million. He is helping thousands of young people, all because I was able to help him. Now he's able to help somebody else, but he's able to do way more than I could do. The Y didn't have 100 million to help nobody, but he does. And so that's the legacy I pray of Terri Harvill that she's going to leave in the earth. And at the end of the day, it ain't my legacy for me. It's my legacy for the kingdom. So you can say, oh, if God helped her do that, He can help me do what I want to do, because it ain't for me. If the glory doesn't go to Him, it's for naught. So that's my legacy. That's my hope. And that's what keeps me doing it again and again and again.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. My beautiful guest for the evening, Miss Terri and David Harvill. Thank you for sharing your time with us. And I see a lot of you all messaging me. I'm going to post the link for the YMCA and Terry's direct line so you can get more information about summer camp. And as always, we thank you for joining us. And as promised, here is the link to Courtney Howard's website. He was our guest on Monday. It's alwaysloveyourscalp.com. Please go on there. Now, let me tell you this. If you go on there to order and you get an email stating that there may be a delay in your order, please don't get offended, ladies and gentlemen. Literally, as she stated Monday, she can't keep enough of these products in stock, which is a good thing. So please be patient if you go on and order. And again, thank each of you for joining us tonight. We don't do these type of late shows, but this is one I had to do tonight to fit Terri's schedule. And I think everyone who was on tonight, you're able to say that you got something out of it. So again, I thank you for joining us, and we will see you back on June the 5th. Thank each of you for tuning in. You have a great evening. As always, keep the faith.